and we have to really escalate the noise we make so that we'll be heard.
Welcome to Gay USA. I'm Andy Hum.
I'm Ann Northrup.
And I'm grateful to all of you who sent in advice about how to deal with my cataracts. Now I would like advice on how to solve the problem of America.
Andy, are you going to ask these questions every week? Well, I just want to warn you that I may be glowing in the dark next week. I start my radiation treatments next week, but no, they assure me it will have no impact on anyone around me.
Okay.
5 weeks, 5 days a week.
Okay. Oh, boy.
Yes, that's what they do.
5 days
But they take off Juneteenth and the 4th of July.
And?
Yes.
Break a leg.
No, don't say that. That's one of the possible side effects of radiation is you can break a bone.
Do you know where break a leg comes from?
No.
Okay. So people used to sit in chairs in the theaters, right?
Yeah.
They were separate. And when they got really excited about a performance, they would bang the chairs on the floor. And if they banged it hard enough, it broke a leg on the chair. And that's why it's a good sign in the theater.
And you think you don't learn anything from television anymore.
Well, so we're just avoiding the news, which is as the Trump campaign to return the U.S. to the dark ages accelerates. We do have some LGBTQ victories to report on as well.
Yes, quite a few. We're looking forward to telling you about that. One of them, sort of, is that World Pride is now fully underway in Washington, D.C., celebrated by us and Denmark, but not the U.S. of A.
A trans woman who sued to get an F gender marker on her passport tells us how her case came out. We have video.
Yes. Well, we can tell you how an election came out in Pennsylvania. A trans woman in Downingtown has won the Democratic primary for mayor.
So getting into the bad news, the Republican budget bill includes a host of life-threatening horrors, including a complete ban on the use of Medicare for gender
Medicaid.
Medicaid. Oh, well, we'll see what happens to Medicare.
Yeah.
For gender-affirming care for youth and adults.
And Trump is up to his usual nonsense, attacking drag in the military, really, really horrendously. And lesbian Shakespeare, which is something he made up, at the Kennedy Center.
Get ready for nationwide demonstrations against Trump on what they're calling No King's Day, June 14th, when he'll be celebrating his birthday in D.C. with a $1 billion military parade.
And we have some Supreme Court decisions, a win, a loss, and a split decision.
The governors of Vermont and Washington State signed bills advancing LGBTQ rights.
And long sentences have been handed down to the 3 men who drugged gay men in New York City gay bars, killing 2 of them.
The U.S. Supreme Court lets stand a ban on state funding of religious charter schools. For now.
That was kind of a shocker, I thought.
Well, we'll talk about it.
We will. We mourn this week the losses of a pioneering lesbian journalist and a trailblazing trans lesbian LA firefighter.
Freddie Mercury is revealed to have had a secret love child. She is now 48 and speaking out.
And England is starting a vaccine program. Don't try to bring vaccines here. For 16 to 23-year-olds to prevent gonorrhea.
All right. So, starting in Washington, D.C., in a defiant show of diversity and inclusiveness, Washington is painting the town in rainbows as World Pride 2025 gets underway there. This is the longest rainbow road ever. More than 100 volunteers helped to paint it. They even had welcoming rainbow signs at Reagan Airport and Dulles Airport.
I know, I was shocked. I thought the whole thing would be invisible.
Yeah.
But they're going on this for, 2 or 3 weeks?
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to the protest march that will wind up the celebrations. But, I was skeptical that they would pull this off or that it would have any political content, but I think they are inevitably going to be seen as political, and I wish them the best.
So they have a Pride parade on Saturday the 7th, and then an international march on the 8th. Is that it, basically? Anyway, if you want the schedule, go to worldpridedc.org for the full schedule.
And big performances by Jennifer Lopez and I want to say Shakira.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Yeah, a lot going on. There's a very, and athletic competitions and other performances. Take a look.
But if you can't get to Washington, on June 14th, we're all going to be out in the streets again, what they're calling No King's Day, for nationwide demonstrations. I hope the rainbows are still on the roadways there for Trump's June 14th birthday military parade. But these No King's Day things are happening from coast to coast. Now, this poster says 12 p.m. nationwide. I think it's actually starting at 2 o'clock in New York and Bryant Park. But I mean, you go to Google the name of your city and No King's Day, June 14th, and you can find out what's going to happen in your area.
It's just a sad coincidence that Trump's birthday is June 14th, Flag Day. Maybe he made that up. Maybe he wasn't born on June 14th.
He lies about a lot of things.
Exactly.
Almost everything.
But I hope there will be massive demonstrations. We need that.
Yep.
We need that show of resistance.
We need to increase it by a factor of about 10.
Yeah.
So while the United States no longer celebrates LGBTQ pride, don't expect a proclamation out of Trump. I would be shocked. At the Danish embassy to the United States in Washington, D.C., there they are. The diplomats from Denmark raised the rainbow flag to celebrate World Pride. Now, this is what U.S. embassies used to do around the world, even in hostile countries, you know?
And then Trump forbade it.
But that's when we were a non-fascist democracy.
Instead of whatever we are now. All right. Well, actually, my favorite example of surrealism in everyday life with Trump is that he's, at their invitation, building a golf course in Vietnam, in Hanoi.
They're giving up precious farmland.
Yes.
For this, because they want to appease him. But I just
and a big hotel in Saigon.
I don't speak Vietnamese. I just want to say you can't appease him.
Exactly. The more you give him, the more he'll take. This is all about, because a lot of the goods we consume here are manufactured in Vietnam these days. They're afraid of tariffs. And so they are saying, please come build a golf course here and build a big hotel in Ho Chi Minh City, formerly Saigon. And it's all about trying to be exempted from tariffs.
I think your original phrase, surrealism in everyday life, is what counts there.
Well, it is.
All right. So a coalition of LGBTQIA folks and allies, they hung this is at Yosemite's El Capitan on Tuesday, they hung a 55 by 35 foot transgender flag. Look at the size of that thing.
Well, that's an inset. The actual flag on the El Capitan mountain looks smaller in real life, but they've taken an inset of it there so that you can see the whole thing.
Anyway, the coalition operating under the project name Trans is Natural was led by drag queen and musical artist Patty Gonya. The persona of activist Win Wiley, who's actually an environmental activist. Mm-hmm. The name promotes the idea that transgenderism is naturally occurring in various species, not just humans. And Gonya said in a news release, "Let this flag fly higher than hate."
It's great. It's great. That's what we should be doing, is having little events around the country, hanging all of these sorts of flags.
Patty Gonya was named one of Time Magazine's Next Generation Leaders, and this year was recognized as one of National Geographic's 33 change makers.
Well, we've seen her before, maybe involved in marriage equality in Ireland.
That's Patty Bliss. I think.
Panty Bliss.
Panty Bliss.
Oh.
Sorry, Irish viewers.
I
went to see Panty Bliss's show here in New York.
Well, thank you for correcting me.
Okay. Let's do the passport story.
Can I insert another surrealism in everyday life? J.D. Vance, our vice president, telling the world publicly that these courts have just got to cut it out.
Yeah.
They are not representing the will of the people.
Right, they're overruling the will of the people, which was originally expressed in our Constitution, adopted in 1789 and amended subsequently.
Mr. Vice President, a small lesson. There are three co-equal branches of government, and the function of the courts is to announce whether a law or an action is legal.
Right.
To define it, not to look to the will of the people.
Yes, look to Marbury versus Madison. That's when that was settled back in the 19th century. Maybe earlier.
18th?
Was it that early?
It could have been.
Okay.
All right.
No,
Continue.
Madison is after Jefferson, and Jefferson was turn of the century.
I
so,
don't know.
yeah.
I just know my ancestor was the third Chief Justice,
Right.
but I think that was just before that decision.
Mr. Ellsworth.
Yes, Oliver.
Okay, so anyway, trans woman Zaya Parisian with the ACLU sued for a U.S. passport with an F gender marker, and here's her video.
For giving me a male passport as a trans woman would be a waste of my time. And for all the people who told me I would never even have a chance at winning the lawsuit, look what came in the mail today. It's my passport! I did sue the presidential administration. I did win. They were ordered to give me a female passport, and it came in the mail today. It came in the mail today! So open up my new passport with me. These past few months have been so incredibly stressful. I'm like nervous to look at it. Yes! Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't believe it. Oh, y'all see that? It's an F. It's an F. I'm literally shaking. Look at it. Look at that F. Yeah. I also have an extra copy of my passport picture in case you were wondering what that looks like. Very cute. I know, very cute. Thank you so much to the ACLU for representing me in this case. They fought so hard for me, and they are fighting so hard for every trans person in this country. Unfortunately, this fight is not over. The ACLU is still trying to get this to apply to every trans person so that we can all get passports that reflect our gender identity. So stay tuned for any updates on that, but this is still a win. And I'm so happy. Oh my god. I have no words. I'm so happy.
And we're happy for you.
Congrats.
And
Yeah.
thank you for what you're doing, standing up. And we do hope that this is extended to all transgender people.
Well, speaking of which, one prominent contestant on RuPaul's Drag Race, Aja, who, Drag Race started out just with drag performers, but along the way over the years, some of those performers transitioned and came out as transgender.
And there was initial resistance to having transgender
Yeah.
people on the show.
But they've gotten over that. And one of them is someone named Aja, who was a big popular favorite and came out as transgender some years ago on the show. Well, Aja applied for a passport with an F gender marker, brought in all sorts of documentation of having successfully been recognized as female in identifying papers, but has so far been rejected by the State Department, got a passport that says M, and is very upset about it. Zaya succeeded because she was working with the ACLU. They did bring the case on behalf of 6 people. We've talked about this case. When they won, we're just thrilled to be able to show Zaya's reaction, which is just classic. But others are still out there fighting
Well, they are in
it.
court. They are in court to
Yeah.
get this done.
Yeah.
Speaking of courts, a divided Supreme Court, you probably read about this, rejected a plan to allow Oklahoma to use government money to run the nation's first religious charter school, which would teach a curriculum infused by Catholic doctrine. Now, they split 4-4 because Amy Coney Barrett was best friends with the guy who started the school, and she
Yes.
said, I shouldn't rule. So this is a temporary reprieve. If she gets another case from somebody who's not a friend of hers,
We'll see. Well, the problem is, though, also we don't know who the four on each side were. We assume the three women were in favor of not allowing the government funding of a religious charter school, but we don't know who the fourth was. We can guess Justice Roberts because he's more often sided with them, but it could be anybody.
He swings both ways.
Well, some of the others do, too. We can be pretty
But
sure
Gorsuch,
it wasn't Alito or Thomas.
Right, of course.
But
Well,
Gorsuch and the other, I want to use a bad word, I will not.
Okay. Now, the Supreme Court also ruled against a middle schooler, Liam Morrison, we have a picture of him, his right to wear this T-shirt in school, which says, "There are only two genders." Now, basically, the school said, look, messages like this are disruptive in a school. And, of course, the only votes he got were from Thomas and Alito.
Well, historically, there have been different rules about free speech in schools, and the standard is it disruptive? In real life, you can say things that are more disruptive and still have your free speech rights upheld, which, of course, apply only to government oversight of your speech, not any private entity. But he was told he couldn't wear it. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think that is very disruptive. It's very hurtful. It's meant to be hurtful. It's hostile.
Yes.
And I mean, should somebody be able to wear one that says,
Kill.
Jesus Christ is not God or something, or whatever, if that's what you believe?
Well, it's hard to know where to draw the line sometimes, but I'm ambivalent.
Okay. Well, and then the court also, however, restored the legislative voting rights of a Republican state lawmaker, Laurel Libby, after Democratic legislative leaders stripped her of her rights when she attacked a trans minor in a social media post. And again, the court treated it like it was some sort of an emergency. We have to get her back in the legislature voting. There's nothing being voted on. In other words, the justices, like Justice Jackson and Sotomayor, they said, hey, there's no rush on this. Let's hear the case and down the road. But they gave her an emergency thing. She's back in the legislature.
Well, I don't know.
Free speech?
Yeah. I want to know more about the context, but yeah.
What she did was she posted the trans student athletes before and after transition pics, dead named her, and misgendered her.
Didn't they take away her voting rights temporarily? Not fully?
Well, she's back.
Well, Trump is going after Gavin Newsom for supporting trans athletes. The California law allows trans athletes in school sports, although Newsom has spoken negatively about it recently.
So I don't think he's going after Newsom. He's going after the state of California. He's saying, Trump is saying, we are going to take away all federal funds going to California if you let this trans athlete participate in a match.
Seems a little extreme, Mr. Trump. I think you're overusing your power.
He says
Perhaps Trump
says it's totally demeaning to women and girls. He said...
Says the rapist.
Yeah. So he didn't, all right. But then the California Interscholastic Federation chimes in and says, well, we're going to extend access for more biological female athletes to participate in the championship meet this weekend that the transgender person was supposed to, so that anybody who thought they lost a place in the contest is going to be accommodated and they're going to be brought in. So they seem to be trying to finesse this.
It's very complicated.
But you cannot appease Trump if you let a transgender person play sports.
Well, you can't appease Trump on almost anything. All right.
But I mean, there were parents and conservative advocates at the meet where this transgender athlete was heckling her during the meets. I mean, it's grotesque.
Charming. Well, in the state of Washington, the governor has signed a bill, a students' rights bill, that allows them not to have their gender questioning revealed to their parents.
Yes.
That giving them privacy. But some of the parents are saying, wait a minute, last year you signed a parents' bill of rights that is supposed to give us information about our kids.
They say their rights are being trampled on. And then in Vermont, a Republican governor, fairly moderate, Phil Scott, he signed a law, an act relating to confirmatory adoptions. The legislation makes the adoption process more efficient for parents seeking an adoption, to create and confirm an existing parent-child relationship by removing, burdensome things on non-genetic parents face when they're adopting their own children. So this is progress that takes effect on July the 1st.
In Cleveland, Tennessee, a Christian school there, Tennessee Christian Prep, expelled a lesbian student who came out online, barred her from campus, including her graduation, and because she wrote an anti-Trump post. There's a lot of free speech questions this week.
But we had a victory in Downington, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Downington, Pennsylvania, which is a Democratic area there. Transwoman Erica Deuso, D-E-U-S-O, a well-respected scientist, businesswoman, and advocate for marginalized community. She's been the treasurer and on the board of directors of the Pennsylvania Equality Project, on the board of PFLAG in Philadelphia. So she is now.
She won the primary.
She is
primary
now,
for mayor.
which is tantamount to election.
It is, but it is.
Mayor.
Let's be correct. It's
Yes.
She won the primary.
That's right.
All right. In
Should we get to?
West Point.
Yeah.
So Trump, the president of the United States, every year gives the commencement address at one of the service academies. It rotates from year to year. Yes, which is West Point, the Naval Academy, the Air Force Academy, and the Coast Guard Academy, I think. So in their 4 years, they get to each of the academies. So Trump was due at West Point this year. And man, I watched the whole speech, and it was the first time I thought he really is losing it. He's off his rocker.
I mean, he had a script, and for a while he stays on it, and then he starts talking about trophy wives and all kinds of crazy things.
And at this military commencement, he's wearing a "Make America Great Again" cap, which is considered completely insulting and not respectful of the military cadets. So we have two clips from that speech to show you. Let's start with clip one.
Job of the U.S. Armed Forces is not to host drag shows, to transform foreign cultures, but to spread democracy to everybody around the world at the point of a gun. The military's job is to dominate any foe and annihilate any threat to America, anywhere, anytime, and any place.
Enough of that.
Enough of that. So he misspoke. He means we are not going to put democracy at the point of a gun.
No, Pete Hegseth wants war fighters.
We don't have democracy here. We're going to impose it on others at the point of a gun.
Yes.
I thought they're.
Well, he said at the beginning of that clip, it's not your job to change the culture in other countries, but he wants armed forces to uphold his version of democracy.
All right. So then we have a second clip which we can discuss.
And we will not have men playing in women's sports, if that's okay. I mean, I wouldn't want to have to tackle, as an example, Bryson as a man. But I don't think a lot of women want to tackle him. I don't think so. How crazy is it? Men playing in women's sports, how crazy is it? So ridiculous, so demeaning to women. And it's over. That's over. We've ended it.
he expected a much bigger hand for taking this stand.
Well, he got a bigger hand than I would have wanted him to get.
Because it's very popular at MAGA rallies.
Well, let's be clear. We do not want men playing in women's sports.
Right.
We want women playing in women's sports, including trans women.
Right.
Who are appropriately evaluated for
Subject to the rules of the sports.
Exactly.
Which, you know.
Exactly. But he doesn't acknowledge any
So
of that.
there was a protest at West Point, a whole bunch of people.
I like these signs.
This is John and Gail Early from Branchville, New Jersey, outside the gates of West Point. And their signs say, Go Army, beat fascism.
Because the slogan is Go Army, Beat Navy.
Right.
So
There was also a small flotilla of boats protesting in the Hudson River in sight of the graduation ceremonies.
nice.
And so, you know, and there were a lot of people holding these signs as all the dignitaries arrived.
West Point does have a nice golf course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Didn't we play it?
Yes, I've played it several times.
Yeah.
I don't go near the facility, but
Now,
the golf
then
course.
Trump hosted a White House dinner for his Kennedy Center board, soon to be the Trump Center, in which he red-baited and gay-baited. He said previous programming was out of control with rampant political propaganda and featured some very inappropriate shows, including a Marxist anti-police performance and lesbian-only Shakespeare.
No.
There's a lot of cross-dressing in Shakespeare.
Well, there's a lot of cross-dressing in the shows that are now approved for the upcoming season at
Yes.
the Kennedy Center, including Tootsie,
There's a couple of them. Chicago, I think,
Chicago,
has it. Yeah.
and something else.
Something else. But the
Oh,
Kennedy-
no, it's not. It's Mrs. Doubtfire,
Yes.
not Tootsie.
Kennedy Center workers have launched a unionization drive with
Yes.
the United Auto Workers.
Yes.
That ought to drive them crazy there. Back the petition, they petitioned the National Labor Relations Board.
A couple of other notes. A judge in Massachusetts has ordered the restoration of LGBTQ research, social research, medical research to the Harvard Medical School website, which
Yes. Harvard
Trump-
is winning all of its cases.
Yes.
All right. But in the long run, I think Harvard is, I don't want to say it's doomed, but so they can win the right for international students to, be able to matriculate.
Yeah.
But the international students are saying, if they're after them this way, I don't know if I want to stay here. I don't know if I want to stay in this country, basically.
yes, but
And then the research, okay, they can get their funds restored for research.
Yes.
And then when the new grants come up, you're not getting any money.
well, I agree they're going through a rough time where they're having to fight tooth and nail for every inch. But it is a restricted period of time. I don't think this is going to go on
We
forever.
got 2.5 more years of this stuff.
Well,
More than that. Now, three and a half.
or 1.5. We're not going to get rid of Trump in 1.5. Although I've begun to think he may not serve out his full term.
Yeah.
I think he may at some point. As all this fighting is going on, I sort of, maybe it was while I was watching the West Point speech, I began to think he may just throw in the towel and
He
say,
didn't even shake hands with all the graduates, which
Yeah.
the president, and Joe Biden did that, and you know what kind of shape he was in. He shook everybody's hand. Trump said, I can't do that today. I have to go stop the war in Ukraine.
Well, I'm not making a bet on this, but I do have a little sense that he might quit.
Well, okay.
Just
sometimes your instincts are very keen.
Sometimes, not all the time, but check me on that.
All right.
Meanwhile, the people who quit are 4 members of the staff of Paul Weiss, the law firm, who decided that they were not going to hang around with Paul Weiss having capitulated to Trump. So I think we have a picture of a couple of them, although I may be calling for it out of order. I apologize to the control room. Karen Dunn and
Jeannie Reed.
Yeah, there they are. Those are 2 of the 4 that have quit. They're going to start their own law firm. Although
And joining them are Bill Isaacson and Jessica Phillips, and they're very prominent.
they are, but Karen Dunn helped negotiate the capitulation.
Yep. Well, And Ms. Rhee served as the top prosecutor in Robert Mueller's special counsel investigation. So this is the source of the problem. Two other prominent lawyers at Paul Weiss, Jay Johnson, who was a former Secretary of Homeland Security, and Stephen Banks, who was head of their pro bono practice, are also departing.
And have you noticed that former Paul Weiss attorney Roberta Kaplan, who beat Trump, is now representing the Metropolitan Transit Authority here in fighting for congestion pricing to continue against Trump, and just won a ruling?
She's tough.
Yeah.
Now, of course, the biggest news that's going to affect everybody in this country is this horrible budget bill that the House passed by one vote. And it has so many bad things we don't quite know where to start. It's all about redistributing wealth upward. The slashes to Medicaid and Medicare are going to be enormous for everybody.
Well, there's evidently a provision in the bill that, and this may be not even just in this bill, but historically, if the budget deficit reaches a certain point, Medicare is automatically cut.
How much? I mean,
I'm sure there's a formula. Well, I just heard it for the first time in the last week.
They just extended the debt limit by $4 trillion. Well,
I'm not sure.
So that Trump can hire more border guards and more military.
And another of my favorite provisions in this bill is that courts cannot enforce injunctions.
Right.
Whoa!
And how does that even belong in a budget bill? What they're saying is we won't fund any effort to fight and
to enforce an injunction. Yeah.
Now the most grotesque from our perspective is that all gender-affirming care is banned under Medicaid right now, and this is really cruelty. I mean, are the states going to make this up and start paying for the funding for trans care, gender-affirming care for trans people? It's just.
Well, I'm
just trying to go through all of it because it's. I mean, it cuts to student loans. It cuts loan forgiveness. It cuts Pell grants. I mean, it.
Well, this, if you were serious about cutting the deficit, you would take a huge chunk out of the Defense Department bill.
Oh, and they're increasing it.
They are. So this is nibbling around the edges of funding to destroy all these programs, and in the end, it's not going to cut enough to make a real difference in the budget deficit, which, as you say, has just been increased. So this is not about cutting the deficit. This is about injuring the American population.
People with disabilities, et cetera.
Yeah.
Okay. The Army, U.S. Army, is going to alter the records of transgender soldiers to show only their sex at birth. They're just imposing this. It's the guidance went out. In keeping with good order and discipline, salutations addressing a senior officer as sir or ma'am only. It goes on and about this. They're just obsessed with this.
Well, one guy got thrown back in his face a little in Michigan. A Republican representative who introduced their state no trans women in girls' sports was holding a hearing on some of this. And we have a little tape. He was asked at the hearing by a gay representative a very intriguing question.
Are you? I asked you the question.
Right, I'm asking the question back to you.
Right, but
I don't know that that's an
we missed the top of that.
Can you tell me, are you trans? Are you? I asked you the question.
Right, I'm asking the question back to you.
Right, but
I don't know that that's an
But what I want to know,
question.
but I'm actually going somewhere with this. I'm going somewhere with this because I want to know how does a 14-year-old girl prove whether or not she's trans to a 50-year-old coach?
Representative, I don't think that's an appropriate question to be asking here today, and I ask you to remain. Thank you.
Loss for
We'll move
words.
on to.
Well, it's not an appropriate question to ask in a legislative hearing, but it's an appropriate question to ask the 14-year-old in sports.
Right.
Yeah. And by the way, pull down your pants or skirt so we can examine you.
Right. By the way, since August of 2023, at least 31 gender and sexuality-based resource centers on college campuses across 23 college campuses have closed, according to recent research. 16 were LGBTQ centers. And the 31 closures thus far have occurred in states with majority Republican legislatures.
And here's another little local outrageous story. In Georgia, in North Cobb, which is in the Atlanta area, we've heard about Cobb County for years in Georgia. Well, the North Cobb Christian School has expelled senior Emily Wright 4 weeks before her graduation. Why? Because she brought a trans date to the prom. There are no rules against it. There's nothing written that says you can't bring a trans date to the prom. And why would that be horrible?
Well, they said to her, is there anything we should know about this guest that you brought to the prom? And I knew exactly, she said, what they were talking about. I said, yes, he's transgender. And her mother says she got a call from the principal. I've been informed that Emily brought a transgender to the prom. Are you aware of that? And the mother said, yes.
Is this school saying that trans people are not allowed on their grounds?
This was off property.
Right, exactly.
And the family signed a form allowing her to bring a guest, said the mother. And the only limitation on the form was related to the guest's age. You can't bring any sugar daddies and things. You don't, So, Tricia said, I feared this might happen. I cried very hard, she said. But I mean, she's been barred from graduation.
Emily
right?
is the.
Emily is, right.
Yeah.
Tricia's the mother.
Yeah. It's just.
The school's principal's a graduate of Liberty University.
Well, there you go. But we talk about these stories every week and about these in sort of grand terms or universal terms, but it's the on-the-ground individual impact of these horrible attitudes and laws and everything else. But this isn't even a law. This is just people being hateful at the Christian school.
Right.
Yuck.
And I keep quoting the Bible. In Christ, there is neither male nor female. You can look it up.
Thank you for that. But it's not just a Christian school in Georgia. It's Disney now. Bob Iger, the head of Disney, has said to the cast at The View that he wants them to talk less about politics.
Do more of those celebrity interviews. Yeah, bring Springsteen on. He'll.
Yeah. They don't like, they think that this is turning off the audience. But if you watch The View, the stuff that gets the biggest cheers and the most applause is the anti-Trump stuff.
Sure. And it's just the suits being nervous about the president going after them.
Well, he has certainly gone after Disney. So did Ron DeSantis, of course. But it's also interesting that Hacks, which is just winding up its season on Max, tomorrow night as we tape.
How did you like this season?
It was a little grimmer than previous seasons.
That's what I heard.
But it warmed up, and I just can't resist it. It's wonderful. And if you haven't watched Hacks, start at the beginning with the first season. There are only a few episodes each season.
We're gonna go see The Star in
Gene Smart.
in a play.
Can't wait. But
in a couple of weeks.
Hacks is doing this whole thing about censorship and complaints about political humor, and that was taped ages ago, but it just happens to be airing now as this is coming to a head.
Okay. In Texas, come September, every public school has to display the Ten Commandments. This is a bill that they passed. They passed it on a Saturday, which is the Jewish Sabbath, and Sunday, the Christian Sabbath, when you're not supposed to do any work. So it's a violation of the fourth commandment. And, the sponsors of these bills say things like, it's incumbent on all of us to follow God's law. And I think we'd all be better off if we did.
What about those of us who don't
Right.
believe in God?
Right. So
Why do we have to?
Can just see the 7-year-olds going, what's adultery? I didn't know what it meant when I was 7.
I
have something for you.
Oh boy, thank
Brand
you.
new one.
Oh, what if I just turn this on?
Well, let's get Ann
Just
mic'd
use
up.
the new one. The old one's better.
Okay,
We
I
got
just
you a
dropped
new
it on the floor.
I'll talk about another story.
Please.
In Seattle, 23 people were arrested after chaos and violence broke out during competing protests in Seattle Park. So there was this anti-trans group called Don't Mess With Our Kids, so there were 500 of them and 500 pro-LGBT and fisticuffs brought. But the mayor is defending our side and saying that they said that the anti-trans people sent, sort of agent provocateur into the other group to stir things up. And this is, of course, what I keep saying I'm worried about. We're going to have this big demonstration on June 14th. But, at some point, the Trump people are going to try to disrupt it to get a fight going, and then they can declare martial law.
At the point of a gun.
Right.
Control room, can you hear me? Is my microphone working?
How are we
All
doing?
right, I think you said fine. Well, also in Seattle, there's a little brouhaha because a sperm bank there has admitted selling leftover sperm to the FBI.
For what?
Research.
Wow. All right.
Yeah, that's what everyone's asking. Why?
All right. Let's get to the. All right.
I want to throw in a few other.
Go ahead. I have some crime stories. And
Okay. Well, here's a crime story. Jussie Smollett has finally settled with the city of Chicago after going back and forth about whether he actually faked his attack years ago. And he has agreed to donate $50,000 to Building Brighter Futures Center for the Arts, a youth group. Well, I'm glad someone is supporting youth arts, because they're not going to get anything from Trump.
That's true.
And in New York City, Heritage of Pride, which puts on the
New York City Pride.
traditional Pride March. And
I would say we put on the traditional Pride March.
True.
With the Queer Liberation March.
Which is happening. But Heritage of Pride has revealed that it is $750,000 short of its budgeted amount for this year's Pride, about a quarter of the amount they were hoping to raise.
As I said, just throw out the budget, just ask people to show up and have a protest march.
Well, of course, join the Queer Liberation March, but...
let's all join together.
Yeah.
Because we better do it fast or we're going down.
So as we predicted last week, as we had a little interior intelligence on, they want a peer-to-peer fundraising thing, which they are budgeting at raising $25,000. What's that going to do with your $750,000 shortfall?
Just have a march. It doesn't have to cost a lot of money.
No, just call people out into the street.
Get rid of those floats.
And the regiments. It's so much more fun when people just get out in the street
that's what we're
and
going to
wander
do.
around.
And
we're
going to meet at the AIDS Memorial
at 11 a.m.
on the last Sunday of June.
Yes, and march north to Lenape Circle, otherwise known as Columbus Circle.
And where the Trump Hotel is.
And I'm going to marshal the drag march on Friday night this year. I've been trying to get back to that for years.
Good for you.
But
you really are back in the swing of things.
I am. Why
All right.
not?
Some crime stories.
Okay.
A tragedy. Black trans man Shai Parius Dupre was shot to death in Memphis on May 18th. We don't know a lot about the whole incident, but this guy attended Sheffield High School, was also an Escoffier School of Culinary Arts person. He was 32 years old. Worked
for FedEx, worked as a youth counselor, worked as a bartender and a cook.
The family and friends held a candlelight vigil on Saturday, May 24th at 6 o'clock in Martin Luther King, Riverside Park.
If we get more details, we'll let you know.
And then in Manhattan, we told you about these guys who were going around drugging gay men in gay bars drugging their drinks, and in some cases killing them with the drugs. Julio Ramirez, there on the left, 25, a social worker, and John Umberger, a right-wing political consultant, in September of 2022. So the three suspects in the case, there's their pictures. They were all given long sentences for murder, robbery, and conspiracy. They protest their innocence, but the DA, Alvin Bragg, says we want to stop this type of deadly conduct from occurring at all. And it's also used against non-gay people in bars.
Yes.
So watch out. Watch your drink. Seriously. Don't ever take a drink from somebody else that you haven't had complete control over. Don't leave it somewhere. Go to the restroom and come back. It may contain a drug. Actually, there are substances you can use to check for whether.
Yes. Maybe strips or something.
Yeah.
You may have wondered. I'm sure you've been up nights wondering about Joe Exotic, the Tiger King.
No, I'm not. But go ahead.
Well, he's still in jail in Texas. On suspicion of conspiring to murder that woman who was after him. But he got married for the 98th time to a fellow inmate, sixth husband actually, who has been released and didn't want to be deported, and so immediately went to Mexico, which is his home country. And now Joe is saying, please let me out of jail so I can go to Mexico and be with him. And it's this whole crazy thing.
Oh, you don't want to get shipped off to El Salvador, that's for sure.
No, not at all.
Okay. PBS is engaging in self-censorship. Again, this doesn't appease the fascists. American Masters has a documentary about Art Spiegelman, the cartoonist. It's called Disaster is My Muse. Yeah. And, they cut this anti-Trump thing, the brief cartoon he had about, how awful Trump was. And they cut it from the thing, even though it had been approved before.
Another of my favorite stories. In Utah, they passed was it a good or a bad thing?
I don't know. I don't have this story. That's why I watched the show.
It was... Yeah, but I've now lost it in my notes after just seeing it.
Well, you find it. I'll let you know that I'm going to go to Queen's Pride this weekend on June 1st out there in Jackson Heights on 37th Avenue at noon. And they have made Andre Jose Hernandez Romero an honorary Grand Marshal. This is the guy who's locked up in the Gulag, who we have not heard from in El Salvador.
When is that?
It's on Sunday, June 1st. At noon in Jackson Heights.
Greenwich, Connecticut is having a Pride event on June 1st. Asbury Park, New Jersey is having Pride this Sunday, June 1st.
And a bunch of celebrities are throwing a fundraiser for Andre's effort, including John Lovett. This is going to be in Washington. We'll link to it. It's on June 6th. It's all part of the World Pride stuff.
And Shepherdstown, West Virginia is having its first Pride Parade. Now, you may think that's, West Virginia, pretty astonishing. They're on their third gay mayor.
Some of these small towns, that it doesn't become so much of an issue. That's just, that's Joe. We all know Joe. So it's no problem.
Well,
all right,
yes.
Some of the people we lost.
Oh, I found the story I was looking for.
Okay, go ahead.
In Utah, they were debating what to do about trans youth care and sports and everything else. And so the Republicans in the legislature said, we want a study of this. We don't believe that it's okay to do any of that. We want a legitimate study. So they commissioned the University of Utah to do a study. Well, the University of Utah said, yes, you should be doing trans care, and yes, you should be allowing trans athletes. And
then what did they say?
They buried it. They buried the study.
That's outrageous.
Yeah.
All right, some people we lost. We lost lesbian journalist Victoria Brownworth. She wrote for the Philadelphia Gay News from the age of 17.
She was a star.
She died at 69. She was predeceased by her wife, Maddie Gold. She'd been having a lot of health problems, and I think when
years.
When Maddie went, that made it a lot harder.
She had many cancers. She had MS. She wrote a lot for the Philadelphia Gay News, but she also wrote for the Philadelphia Inquirer and a lot of other...
First person in the United States to write a column about lesbianism in a daily newspaper.
She did radio, too. She
Lambda
got a lot of
Literary
awards
for Lesbian Mystery. She became a host on Amazon Country.
She was amazing, Victoria Brownworth, and that's a big loss, and she suffered a lot for years with her various illnesses.
Right. Okay, and then Michelle Kammerer lived the struggle of working while transgender, had been a fire captain as a man and became a fire captain as a woman in the Los Angeles Fire Service, and she faced a lot of backlash, but she was also a lesbian as a trans woman, and she said that actually kind of made it easier with the guys because they didn't think I was going after them. But it was they did a profile of her on In the Life in 1999 that we will link to in our email.
She leaves a wife and 3 kids and grandkids. She was quite a trailblazer.
Right.
And then in Palm Springs, California, Colton Ford, who was only 63, real name Glenn Sukisian, a big porn star, but also an accomplished and
recording artist.
Yes, and songwriter. Was on the
actor.
Cyndi Lauper True Colors tour.
But apparently it was a hiking accident.
Yes, but the city flags of Palm Springs are flying at half staff.
A much beloved figure out there.
Yeah.
All right. International news?
Yeah. Oh, Florida, which has so much time on its hands, has passed a rule that bridges in Florida can only use red, white, and blue lights. No more rainbow lights on bridges.
We'll find a way around that.
Okay. Promise?
All right.
Yes.
International news.
Yeah.
We told you that Hungary has banned LGBTQ pride. So 20 EU states have condemned that and are starting a process to really go after Hungary on this.
In the UK, where they had the recent court decision that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
Covered by the Equality Act.
Yeah, there are, so a trans-inclusive football club, the Goal Diggers, have scheduled a protest tournament that is taking place this weekend on June 1st.
Well, they're a trans-inclusive team, and they always have been. And the tournament is entitled "Let the Dolls Play." And it's also a non-ability-based team that welcomes trans. So
sounds like the gay games.
And their goal is to get the Goal Diggers is to get everyone gets at least 60 minutes of football, and the day will finish with a twist. The final will be played between the 2 teams with the fewest wins. How about that?
Okay, and we're running out of time. In Birmingham in the UK, our pal Peter Tatchell was carrying a sign in the Pride Parade demanding police apologize for anti-LGBT witch hunts.
Police didn't like this.
Well, he's gotten many police departments in the UK to apologize, but in Birmingham, they arrested him. They grabbed him and took him out of the parade, and then they told him that the leader of the parade had asked that he be removed, and the leader said, no, not me. The cops had lied to Peter.
It was just the cops. It's terrible. Yeah. I mean, they used to arrest you there for just kissing in the street.
In Russia, Apple has been fined $93,500 for 3 violations of the no LGBTQ propaganda law. But all this took place in a closed hearing, and they wouldn't release a transcript of the hearing, and the judge said something to describe what had happened, but he spoke unintelligibly, so no one could know.
And Freddie Mercury had a child. It's 48 years later. We learn it's a girl, and she's giving interviews for this new book about him.
Yes. All right. AIDS news?
Well, Housing Works tag, Health Gap, they disrupted Rubio's testimony at the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and they were arrested. Yep. Rubio claims that PEPFAR is 85% functional. That's a lie. and they're demanding full reinstatement of that.
Yes. And let's.
England is starting a vaccination program for gonorrhea, the first such program in the world. It's for people who are like 16 and to 23. Involves 2 shots 6 months apart.
And the annual AmFAR benefit at the Cannes Film Festival brought out Jeff Bezos, Coleman Domingo, Kimberly Guilfoyle, and Kevin Spacey, and Spike Lee and Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, Kevin Spacey
It's quite a crowd.
Is directing a new film, apparently.
It made $17 million.
And
other entertainment news in our last 2.5 minutes.
Okay.
I watched the Gerard Carmichael new special on HBO, Don't Be Gay. It's really engaging and good. I liked it.
And let's show Cola Scola getting their caricature at Sardi's.
I know some people might think, you know, this is such an honor bestowed on people who have contributed a lifetime, a long career to Broadway. And I've only done, you know, 1 Broadway show, and to those people, I would say, you know, who the fuck asked you? Who the fuck asked you? Mia Farrow gave me her phone number 2 days ago, and she said, if anyone gives me any trouble, she'll beat them up. So just think about that before you comment your little things, and I'm talking to all of you, all right? So thank you so much.
I hope Cole wins the Tony, just to hear them speak.
Yes. Pee-wee as himself on HBO. 2 parts, 3.5 hours.
I watched it as well.
Yeah.
And ABC is going to do a Late to the Party coming out later in life special on Friday, June 6th at 8 o'clock Eastern. And it's going to stream on Hulu. It's hosted by Charles Blow.
Sirens on Netflix is kind of amusing. The end of The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu was excellent, but there's a sequel coming, The Testaments, from another book by Margaret Atwood. And as I say, Hacks wrapped up this week.
And at Cannes, the newcomer Nadia Maliti won Best Actress honors for something called Little Sister. She plays a tough Paris teenager trying to navigate her sexuality in a conservative immigrant community.
Muslim. And it's her first role as an actress. The American Music Awards courted a little controversy because J-Lo did a big opening dance number where she kissed some of her dancers, both male and female.
And the Huntington Museum out there in California has an exhibit on Don Bacardi, A Life in Portraits.
Ah, yes. All right. Oh, we still have 19 seconds. Good for us.
Take it away, Ann.
Well, I'm going to come back glowing next week, but everything's good, and we will see you then.
If we're
God willing,
still
and the
allowed,
creek don't rise.
If we're still allowed to do this.
Okay, bye.
Bye.